All right, YouTube. So, CNN has gotten triggered by the Laura Ingraham monologue, as many others have, and there's like a lot of phony outrage and everything, which is to be expected in today's day and age. And yeah, they've really outdone themselves, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna call for a boycott again, like that little shithead David Hogg did before. But the whole thing is just retarded. You know, Van Jones comes out and he's basically like, you know, talking about how there's like a real problem here in the United States about racism, and Laura Ingraham is basically like one of the spokespeople or the advocates for racism. And then Smirkonish comes out and he's like, oh, you know, this is like a very accurate reflection of all Trump supporters, and it was a very articulate explanation of the philosophy behind Trump and everything. But, you know, he's right in that regard, but he's wrong in saying that it's about, like, white nationalism and everything. So, obviously, it's false. And, yeah, and it's just fucking retarded, you know. CNN sucks for many reasons, but the one thing that comes to mind is, like, Jim Acosta goes out there, he whines to Brooke Baldwin, he's like, oh, you know, there certainly is a lot of distrust in the media, and why don't they trust us? And as a matter of fact, I'm thinking that we all ought to get bumper stickers and march out in the streets saying that CNN is real news. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding. This is what Jim Acosta said in a fucking interview with Brooke Baldwin. And then, a week later, they basically say, oh, Alex Jones is hate speech, we're going to take him off YouTube. When you just have Van Jones and Michael Smirkonish basically giving hate speech, or, you know, speaking hate speech, or speaking hatefully, talking about Trump supporters as if they're racist and white supremacists. It's just total bullshit. And all you're trying to do is fuck with the minds of Trump supporters. That's all you're trying to do. And you're failing miserably, honestly. Like, Operation Mockingbird is a stale meme at this point. Like, you guys really gotta step your fucking game up, honestly. And your final frontier of control is basically like your control of like these phony, like polls and everything, and surveys, basically like trying to say, oh, you know, 66% of the country thinks that Trump is a racist, or, you know, disapproves of the job that he's doing. Well, you know, fuck that information, because that's probably not true. I would go ahead and assume that his approval rating is probably like in the mid-50s right now. I know it says 40, but I'm being generous, obviously. That's just my opinion. But somewhere like between 40 and 50, probably. And you know, honestly, CNN's just freaking out because folks like Alex Jones, the major ones, Styx, Martin Brodell, the major ones, who else? Wild Smile, Black Pilled, and then some of the minor ones, including myself, Memory Decipher, WCAM Studios. Well, he's a little more major. He's kind of in between there. Nonetheless, all very good content creators. And they're freaking out because they're like, oh, you know, these people are able to connect with a broader audience because they actually talk about shit that makes sense. And oh, you know, they're not listening to our bullshit anymore, so let's go ahead and deplatform like some of the most prominent media figures here in the alt media. And oh man, what's the word that's going around? The Streisand effect, whatever that means, but that seems to be a term that's getting repeated, and there's probably some truth to that. So, I don't know. That was a pretty good take. I'm going to end it on that. You know, I just think Van Jones is just, you know, he's one of these people that's like an Al Sharpton type, you know, like he's, oh, you know, because I'm black, I can basically be an expert on racial issues here in the United States. I don't know. I don't think that Van Jones would probably fit in with a lot of black folks, because a lot of black folks I know are common sense folks, and they probably look at Van Jones like he's kind of a nerd or a goofus, you know, and that's putting it lightly. You know, I could say much worse, but he's an asshole. Let's just go ahead and put it that way. I mean, I think that's probably the medium term I could probably use there. Alright guys, I will see you later. Definitely more news to come. I'll see you later. God bless.